Okay, so we're going to add some of these little bolts here. What we're going to do is use a separate object, and I'm going to show you the outliner here real quick. This outliner, if you don't see this, it's this button right here, and what this is everything in our scene. So we want to keep things in our scene organized, just like in Unreal or any other program. So we can double click and name this chest, and then we're going to add some bolts in here. So what we could do is we could use this cylinder tool here to create a bolt, and we only need the bolt head. We don't need the entire bolt. So let's just click on this cylinder here, and there it is. We'll move it up over, and we're just going to want to create this head. Now remember, I talked about you want to use quads, but here we have triangles. It is okay to use triangles. That's quite all right. Let's get out of symmetry mode here. So I will turn symmetry off, so we can just select one side at the same time. So again, as I was saying, we do have triangles where you end, where you have an ending, and that's okay. But I want to add a little more detail to the top here. Okay, so I showed you this modeling toolkit. There's also a channel box editor and an attribute editor. If we go over to the attribute editor, we select our cylinder here, go over to polycylinder 1, and now we have radius, height, subdivision axis, subdivision height, subdivision caps. We're going to mess around with these so that you can kind of see what happens. You have this radius here. You have a height. We want to keep these pretty small. We also have subdivisions. We're going to keep them fairly high because we want it to be a round looking object. And subdivision height, we don't need subdivisions in the height, do we? But the caps, we want some subdivisions in here. So now we have a flat surface. Over here we see that they're rounded. So how can we fix that? Well, I'm going to go back to the modeling toolkit and show you a little feature called soft selection. So we're going to go into vertice mode. I'm going to hit that vertice, click this one in the center, and let me show you what soft selection does. If I scroll down here and turn this on, you can see that it lights up a bunch of points and it's moving everything on it. So it looks like it's not really doing anything at all. Well, we have to change this volume. So let's go ahead and change this, I don't know, let's go to 20 and see what that does. Now when I move, let's go to, I don't know, 5 or 4, 5. And then when I move this up, you can see that it's starting to round off. Now this is a tiny little object. So I've got to take I'm going to undo that and take my volume down even more. I'm going to take it down to 1. Okay, do you see how now there's this color along here? And that lets me know that all those points are being affected. So I actually need it to be a little bit greater than 1. I need it to be like maybe 1.5. So I'm going to go 1.5, and then I can kind of scale this up. And you see now that I have this round edge here, which is kind of what I want for my bolt. All right, now you can play with that tool. It definitely comes in useful, but now I have this nice rounded edge here. It's not perfect, but I could go in and tweak it. I could change the settings there to make it more perfect. I think you could probably go up to maybe even 1.7 here without a problem, and scale that and translate that up a little bit even more. Yeah, the perfectionist in me is coming out. So I'm going to go all the way, I'm going to just go 2 on this and scale that up. Now let's go 2.5. Again, this is experimentation. I didn't know exactly what settings I'd want. Something like that looks good to me. Now this is still far too big. We need to scale it way down. We'll go to object mode and we'll scale this way, way down. And then we're going to, in the next lesson, position them around our object. So I will see you then. Well, first, let's rename this. Keep things organized. Double click and call this bolt. And we're actually going to nest it within this object. If I just middle click and grab it and drag it onto chest, now chest gets this plus icon and we have a bolt in there. All right. In the next lesson, we'll kind of arrange them around where we want them. I'll see you then.